everyone, and welcome to our new podcast, Same Place, Worlds Apart. I'm Sabrina Dixon from Social Inclusion Recovery Group. We are an education and mental health advocacy service based in Lewisham.
And I'm the co-host Callum, and I come from an organisation called Ubuntu, and the Black Leadership Project, which is a program that works with Black children and young people in Lewisham. It's been operating for the best part of about 10 to 15 years. Prior to that, it was called Mandiani, specifically for Black boys, and operated again for about 10 years before that.
Excellent. So we'll get a bit deeper into what we both do later on in our programmes. But for today, we're going to be talking about the BLACHIR report. Now, the BLACHIR report was a bit of insight work put together by Lewisham Council and Birmingham City Council. The reason for that was because Birmingham and Lewisham at the time had the biggest populations of African Caribbean communities. So we're going to be looking at what those themes and insights were and what the council and the statutory organisations within Lewisham Borough are going to be implementing. Now, what we want to make sure is that we've got people that come on that are able to give us the right insights, work in those fields, have lived experience, because this report, like many reports before it, has shown us all the health inequalities that we already know exist. Now, the next step is for us to ensure that there's accountability so that the implementations of some of these recommendations are put in the right way for us. Not what the council or anyone else think is right for us, but what us as a Black community would like to see within our healthcare services and wider determinants as well, like our policing and our schools.
And so basically, some of the themes that we're going to be looking at, there's 8 themes altogether. And the themes are racism and discrimination, maternity, parenthood and early years, children and young people. It's going to be aging well, mental health and well-being. Going to be healthier behaviours, emergency care, preventable mortality and long-term physical conditions, wider determinants of health. What we essentially plan to do is get professionals in their field to come in and discuss these in a little bit more in depth. And it's going to be specific to our experience in the diaspora as a people. So when you hear about sort of children and young people, specifically how the public health services impact us and how they work with us and our experiences in them. I mean, I've got a lot to say on them, but I think it's going to be helpful to have professionals in the field as well.
Yeah.
Especially those who have sort of expertise of 20 plus years. People who have experienced as service users as well would be really helpful. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
Same.
And I think on sort of like on a day-to-day, sort of some of the work that I do anyway explores a lot of this work. You know, when you're talking about community work, it always sort of ties in. When you're talking about things like mental health, like I said, the project itself that I work with works with children and young people anyway. So I'm excited.
And your project, I guess, is stepping in to fill a gap of health inequalities in some type of way. You may not realise it, but it is. Because I feel like if the statutory organisations, our schooling, our policing, etc., was set up to support us, services like us wouldn't need to exist.
It wouldn't need to exist. But it's necessary, and I think we can't run from what majority of other groups have determined is essential for their progression. So our history is massively omitted in the curriculum. And what that means is that there's a void. So when we go through the education system, we don't see ourselves in there.
Yeah.
We see ourselves how it's prescribed. And we live in a country that omits history to such a degree that they post themselves as the heroes. And you don't really ever get to work out that Britain colonized 75% of the planet Earth because they're always seen as the heroes, with much of their heinous acts towards humanity omitted. So you see them as the heroes and us as a sort of, I don't know, like we're less than. The only sort of place that we fit in a lot of the curriculum is sort of slavery. You look on the TV, you look at the media, you see us in sort of the more negative stereotypes. So what we try and do, we've put together a curriculum. The curriculum is sort of, we have 6 terms a year. So we do history and self-development, self-improvement. confidence and sort of conflict resolution.
Yeah.
We do history, so like actually a deep dive into history. So, for example, you can't learn about Pythagoras without learning about Imhotep. So like, you can't speak about those in sort of Greek and Roman times that are revered as sort of the greats of philosophy and medicine without speaking about the schools that they learned from
Yeah.
in Africa
Yeah.
and the points in time in which they came back with the knowledge and where that knowledge came from. We act like it was just this acquisition of knowledge came just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Nobody in Europe had this knowledge. They went and studied, came back, and all of a sudden they were great. It's
Yeah.
like, well, who taught them? When you start teaching the young people, well, it was us that taught them, Africans. Oh, but when I see Africa is actually this, that, and the third, and it's like, well, you've been sold a lie.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? We've got to boost our PR campaign. We do finance as well, so they sort of get to understand what tax means. I didn't know what tax meant when I was young.
Trust me, I remember when I got my first paycheck and I thought, who is PAYE and why are you taking my money? Need it back. Run it back, please.
Yeah, so you're right. It feels a massive void, to be fair. And it's not until you start working with the young people you realize how much that they are just completely disengaged with education.
Yeah.
And the teachers as well. The teachers are completely disengaged from the young people they're working with.
See, I kind of disagree. I think it depends because my background, I'm a secondary school teacher and I was that teacher that maybe I'm more of a radical teacher because I would allow that. I would give them extra lessons and understanding so they understand themselves. I was a teacher that if my student got in trouble and I got an email, I'm going straight away to deal with that situation where I feel like there are some teachers, some that are our skin folk as well, that have become so institutionalized that they forget the purpose and the reason they even got into teaching in the first place. And for me, I left teaching because I felt that there was a blockage with how much I could do as a human. It was always having to just stay within the confinements of the school policies. And some of these kids need you to go over and beyond. It's not just from the morning till they leave. I'm also the teacher that if I see you outside in the shopping centre, I'm going to pull you aside, have a conversation, make sure you're okay. If your parents are there, I'm going to engage. Some teachers don't care. Once you've clocked off, they don't see you. You don't exist at all. So yeah, sorry, I had to just defend the profession.
Of course. And it's not a discredit to teachers. I hold them in a very high regard, to be fair. It's a little bit like when we critique the NHS. It's never a critique of the people that work in the system. Because I have massive respect for them. It's a critique of how the system was designed.
Yeah.
It was created with failures in it. Like it wasn't designed to work. It was designed to fail.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's more the critique. But massive kudos to teachers and the work they do. And especially ones that go above and beyond because that's not common. It's not as common, I think, and I don't think it's intentional. I don't think it's a malice thing. I don't think a lot of them have capacity.
I was going to say that.
Some schools that you got 35. There was one the other day, I had 39 students in the class.
What kind of classroom was that? I wouldn't even teach.
Mainstream.
Turning off the smartboard and everything.
Students in the class.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, as you can see that we are already discussing some of the themes, but for this particular, let's start again. As you can see, we're already digging deep into some of these themes. For our next program, we're going to be digging real deep into racism and discrimination. And like I said before, we're not having this happened and this happened. No, we're going to have proper serious conversations. And at times it could be emotive, but I feel like we need to have these conversations said out loud and made sure that especially our people from Lewisham, that they know, they're informed. Because my concern for me is that we've got so much amazing seniors in our borough, and it's now time that they pass the baton on and we pass the baton on so that we're educated, so that the fight continues. And I would hope that by the time my grandchildren are born, that these changes we can actually see them. And we're not still having these BLACHIR 0.0 whatever, do you know what I mean, reports, and that things are starting to change.
And I think we should never really see it as like, it should never sort of put us off if we're still doing the reports or we feel like the progression has been minimal. We have to understand the system that we're operating in. I think I like what you said about sort of people having to hand the baton down. They say old men are for council, young men are for war. And I think what happened with the older generation, they saw a lot of racism. No, not to get to the next podcast topic in depth or anything, But I think obviously that with the older generation, they was able to clearly distinguish what was what. So
Yeah.
racism was a lot more in your face. Go back to your country, no blacks, no Irish, no
Yeah.
dogs, fighting with NF and stuff like that. And I think the emergence of that has been quite recent. I think the re-emergence of that happened massively after George Floyd. And I think a lot of us have really got into this bubble of individualism. And I think George Floyd was a massive wake-up call to actually how much overt racism has just been kept under the blanket for so long in this country.
Yeah.
I never thought that I'd be fighting with racist people.
Really?
No, I did like in terms of like physically.
Oh, like
Physical.
how
So,
our elders would have had to deal with that, like
but
the NF.
you know, you look at back. I remember it was 2020 and 2021, and we had what was coined as the Battle of Trafalgar. There was a peaceful march that the racist sort of far right hooligans turned up. It was a physical battle.
Yeah.
And I remember just saying to myself, like, I didn't even think, like, I got no problem with it.
Yeah.
I just didn't ever anticipate, and I don't think many of us did. I think a lot of people were in this bubble of, what I always say to people is, when did racism stop then?
It ain't stopped.
When was the date that there was this, like, this just conscious and social shift where we was like, oh, we're not racist. No, everything's good.
Yeah.
What date was that? And everyone, that's the question that always throw people off.
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh yeah, racism's over. Okay, when did it end?
No, I just feel like it didn't end. It just went into hush tones where people will slightly do things, and that's where they went blatantly in your face racism.
Absolutely. And like for me, it's like, and again, I feel we're getting way into the topic.
Yeah.
But for me, it's never about someone calling you you're this or that. That's not racist. If you can call me that and get away with it, that's racism.
Yeah.
Because you're in a system that then benefits you and disadvantages me.
Yeah.
That's not fair. But your personal problem with me, that's nothing to do with me. Honestly, you don't. That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? But if I send my child to school and he has a less chance of succeeding to his white counterpart, that is a system of racism.
Yeah.
And that's where the BLACHIR report comes in.
Yeah.
Because we're challenging actually, like we're reframing what racism is to people so they can stop saying, oh, racism, oh no, I don't get called a nigger no more.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's other ways.
It is, like, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more complex than that.
Because even when you think about our young people, like our Black Caribbean young people are 2.5 times more likely to be permanently excluded from school than their white counterparts. Why is that? Why?
Yeah.
And our mortality rates for our Black mothers is 5 times increase that their children will die. Why is that? It's 2023. How can that be a thing?
And it all goes back to how we're seen, and the reason why it goes back to racism is because if you don't see someone as human, you consider them almost devoid of those human interactions and nuances of human. So if you don't feel like I can feel pain, I can be upset, I can feel depressed, it's nothing for you to treat me inhumanely because you don't see me as a human.
Yeah.
That's why Black women will die more, because their pain is invalidated, unfortunately. Like, when we're talking about, boys, our boys are more likely to be excluded. 2.5. It used to be statistics was a lot higher at one time a while ago, and all that's happened is a reform in the system happened. There was this big drive of no exclusions, and all they do now is just manage
move. Yeah.
But nothing's changed. Like, we're still being chastised for being ourselves a lot more than our white counterparts, and that has to change.
Yeah.
And that has to change.
So
tell me more, like, tell the people and tell me more about what you do. So how does your work tie into this? How did you end up with this task?
Right, so SURGE, so Social Inclusion Recovery Group, we're known as SURGE. We, like the data suggests, we've done lots of research into inequalities that we face as Black people. And because my background's in teaching, it was evident from being in the classroom that there was a difference with the outcomes of my students, and even the difference of how their behaviour was dealt with, how their learning difficulties were dealt with. And so we looked into that on the back of mental health as well. And the data and statistics are the same. So I myself went through my own challenges with my mental health, and I had to go through the system. I had a horrendous time. I went through the system thinking, I'm a professional person, I work, I pay my taxes. If I need help, I should be able to get help. It was awful. And I realized that I can't be the only person that's gone through this. So I did a few forums within Lewisham and soon realized that there's so much need. So many of us that have untold stories that we haven't shared with people. So once we got those case studies, we then asked everyone, what did you need in that moment? And everyone said, someone to speak for me.
Okay. Okay.
And
Okay.
that's when we realized advocacy is needed.
Yeah.
We need people that understand education law, education acts, mental health acts, and reforms and all of that to be able to support our people. So what we do with education advocacy, if you're like your child's being excluded or you're having like a very difficult time communicating with the school, a child has a need, waiting for CAMS for however long, and you don't know what to do.
For 5 years.
Our advocates come in. They come in, get to understand you, understand your outcomes that you want. Sometimes, we can try to get the outcome you want, but it's difficult. We're still fighting the system at times. And we work closely with our barristers and solicitors as well for times where it may need to go to first or second tier tribunal. They help support the parent through that. And with the mental health advocacy is our Black people that are being sectioned. They're on the wing under Section 2, Section 3. And at times they're just drugged up. They don't even know what day of the week it is. And again, we go in, make sure they understand their rights, make sure that they're informed about the decisions that are made. But importantly as well is that their families are kept up to date. At times the families can be the problem. We definitely understand that. But what we're finding is a lot of the times the statutory organisations don't understand when it comes to Black people, we're family orientated. So I might say that's my uncle, that's my aunt, but that's not even my aunt or uncle by blood. That's my mum, friend from way back. But it still means something to me. And those people care about that person that's being detained and they want to do what they can. So we make sure with obviously the permission of our client, if they have the capacity to let their family know what's happening so they can fight as well. Because we're not trying to be an advocacy service that's just out here fighting. We want to empower others that once you know what you need to do, if you know your neighbour's going through something, you can fight for them. You don't need to come back to surge. You know what I mean?
I think what you said is key as well, and I think it ties into why we see sort of the levels of mental health in our community that we do, statistically speaking. Like, when you're talking about, I call them auntie, but that's not my auntie. That, I think the Western world has sort of uniformed itself in such a way, it's very, black and white. It's based so much on it's like there's a sort of rigid layer, law and procedure that doesn't allow for anything outside of that. It's very unhuman.
Yeah.
In all honesty, if you subscribe to it, kudos to you. Maybe you can do fantastic, but culturally, it is a little bit devoid of that community element.
Yeah.
That's massively missing, and I think it focuses so much on sort of the capitalistic element of make money, make money, that it just. I was driving. I said to my I was driving the other day, and I drove for about an hour and 20 minutes, starving the whole way. Majority of the world, a man would run up to the car, yo, here's some fruit, or they could just eat out. Yeah, you understand? Nothing.
Yeah.
Just a concrete jungle, and I thought this isn't healthy.
Yeah.
I can't even see the sky.
Yeah.
Just a concrete jungle for an hour and a half. That alone,
It's depressing.
It can affect your mental. It really can affect. I was going to ask you as well. You said you had your own experience with the people you work with and the work that you do. Do you see yourself and your experience in them, and does that help your work?
100%. And I'll be honest. So because of that, I slightly step away from dealing with clients. So we have our advocates that support them because it can be emotive. And because I'm a person that just wants to help everyone and heal everyone, that I get way too invested at times. So, and that's not helpful. And so, I step away so that I can make sure that they get the best that they need. But I do find that we're just getting the same stories. And when we do get our clients, even though we do deal with education and mental health, there's a magnitude of things behind that. You may have relationship breakdowns. You may have homelessness, unemployment, families that are being moved that grew up in, say, Deptford. Now they're being told that they've got to go and live in Medway and their children are in school. How do you get your child to school? And then a lot of the times when it comes to education, our young Black students have got needs that have been unmet, but the school sees it as behaviour and they're sent to isolation. When we get into the children and young people, the overuse of isolation rooms is horrendous.
No, no.
And then they get sent to, I won't say the name, but the statutory Peru of Lewisham. And it's just the same thing. And there are particular schools in our borough that have the highest exclusion rates. And
There is, yeah.
but we realised it within our data that there's a certain amount of schools. And then when we looked it up the other day, we realised this was an issue that was published in one of the local newspapers, and these schools are still a problem.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a problem for a very long time. There's particular people and particular schools that get away with it, and it's the same across the country. The inclusive schools bear the brunt of the burden of the inclusive.
Yeah.
It's a massive issue, and again, if you have people who are willing to use the system to get out of being responsible and avoid that community element of actually you are you're a part of this triangle,
Yeah.
this person's life. Like, it's not just ABCs that you're here for.
Yeah.
Granted, the parents are supposed to be teaching to some degree what morality looks like, what culture looks like, what we believe in. But I feel like very much the education system in the country is picking and choosing at what points they should blur that line.
Yeah.
And I think parents now are either one, way too busy to even be able to enforce that in such a way, or they disagree so much with what's going on in the school that it's just a constant battle. I definitely, like, with my little boy, I come and have conversations with him, and sometimes he talks to me, and I'm like, where did you even hear that? And as I have to be very careful with him, I'm like, well, that's not our culture.
Yeah.
We don't disrespect anybody. We don't look at anybody wrong. They may look at us as we're different. No problem. People are different, and that's okay. Here's our culture.
Yeah.
And I think for us, what I encourage people to do is what I like the idea of the advocacy and making people be advocates for themselves.
Yeah.
Is if you educate yourself to such a degree, you don't have to just say they're lying.
Yeah.
You can say why they're lying.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? You can back it up.
Yeah.
Kids know when we're just faffing. They know when we're talking rubbish. No, that ain't true. All right, if it's not, because my son will, if it's not true, then what is it then?
Yeah.
I look like a fool if I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Let me just get Google up.
Yeah. But like my son sees, I love how my son sees, he sees me like I'm just like the get, and I love it because like I pride myself on that because I'm always like, it's only with the maths. It's only with the I'm decent with my, but it's only with them when the maths comes. I'm like, wait, you might have to ask your mum. I don't know.
Listen, when you get to GCSE, it's even worse.
Yeah, I'm like, but like in terms of like the cultural stuff, in terms of the history, in terms of like who we are outside of this framework of education, who are we?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we believe in this. We don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't disrespect nobody that does, but this is our thing.
Yeah.
And
because there's one thing you said about parents, and you gave two options, but I feel like the stress, I don't think the schools understand the stress that parents go through.
yeah,
And I am sick to death of hearing that us as Black people are hard to engage or hard to reach. Sorry, we're hard to reach. We're not hard to reach. You're just trying to reach us on your terms.
yeah, exactly. That's perfect.
And we want to be reached this way, but no one wants to have that conversation.
No, I want to be reached on my terms.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
You don't have to come and sit down and one spliff with me and you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
When I say on my terms, what I'm saying is you need to make an effort to understand the demographic of the children that you're teaching.
Yeah.
You don't get to just be like, well, this is how it should be and this is how it will be. It doesn't work that way. These children, you don't like, there's some of the school that you're talking about. I know them off the top of my head because of the Lewisham Education Report.
You won't name them.
No, I won't. I mean, but, and they change sometimes. So over the years, some have been more notorious and got a lot better, and some have changed. And there's some that have typically always been quite poor at being inclusive. But I think one of the things that they fail at the most is identifying that they are part of this triangle of this child. Like, you may be the only consistent in this child's life.
Yeah.
This child might have had a cousin that just passed on the weekend or was killed. That raises his anxiety levels. He hasn't seen his dad in how long. His mum works 2 jobs. You really don't know the intricacies of this young person's life because you haven't cared to check. You just see the behavior and feel like that's enough.
Yeah.
And while I appreciate the scope of education has changed and it put more pressure on teachers, completely understand that. But it's a job you sign up for. And there's times you have to step outside of your role and say, you know what? I know I've got some marking to do, but he just didn't look right today. I'm just going to grab him. Yo, everything okay? Like, I don't know what's going on with you, but you seemed a bit off in class today. I didn't want to tell you off in that way, but what's going on? You know,
Yeah.
we need more human element. I know you're stressed as a teacher. I totally understand. I get it. I'm in education myself.
Yeah.
Fully understand
Yeah.
it. But we just need more human interaction because that is missing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely agree. And I guess for myself, even I have to put my hands up because the schools that my two boys, one went to and one's still at, they've done really well. And I'm not sure whether they've Googled me and they're thinking, listen, we don't want this parent turning up with our advocates. But they've done brilliantly. And I think because they had teachers that went over and beyond, those teachers then became not my friends, but they had my number, they would message me. And even now, my son's finished secondary school and these teachers are still around. When he has activities or he's doing fabulous stuff, they turn up.
Yeah.
And it's about, like you said, going over and beyond and understanding that you're way more than just a teacher. You see this child more than the parent sees the child in some aspects. You know what I mean?
course.
So
In terms
yes,
of being
sometimes you've got
away,
to be dad or you've got to be mum
100%.
sometimes or auntie.
100%.
And I know for me, I was definitely, for some of my students, the big sister that would just, I will listen, we're going to have words. And I love that I didn't have to even say much, just the look. Especially with our black kids, they know what the look is.
They know, and they know when people care. They're not silly.
Yeah.
You can't fake it.
Yeah.
You just can't. Like, I remember being in school, someone said to me the other day, it wasn't the other day, it was a while ago, someone asked me this. And I think I said this on another interview or whatever I was doing before. Someone said, if you could go back and treat some of your teachers different, would you? I said, no. No.
I wouldn't.
I said, because I knew then, I may not have had the language to express it, but I knew they didn't like me. You know, and I made a real effort in sort of the last couple of years of my school. Made no difference. You already knew that you already had it in your head.
Yeah.
This little bugger is coming to my classroom and I'm on him because I'm going to let him know that I'm in charge.
Yeah.
But my whole thing was, I don't care who's in charge. You don't know what I'm going through. I just want to learn. Like, I just want some love.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I say it all the time. I wouldn't go back and change a thing. Some of the teachers would still hate my guts.
Yeah. And like you said, you know when you've got that feeling with a teacher doesn't like you. And I feel like parents even was always the key element as well, where they had their time to shine in front of the parents.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you doing this? Why are you saying all of this stuff? But I've worked with people that out and say, like, I don't even like children.
Yeah, that's same.
Why are you teaching?
Same.
But it's a stability. Yes, it is a stressful job, but it's a stability. And yeah, you don't have to, and maybe it's something that you're really into. So if you was an art teacher and you're really creative and you just love teaching art, it could be anyone you teach it to, but you've put yourself in a position where you're teaching young people, but they genuinely don't like them. And it's really difficult. Like I said, I had to come out because I found it difficult dealing with certain senior leadership team and some staff as well.
Yeah.
And if we're not all trying to get to the best outcome for my young people, then what are we doing? Yes, I had to step away.
And like I couldn't be a teacher. I go into schools a lot and talk, but I couldn't be a teacher.
I feel like they need someone like you.
I couldn't be a teacher. I'd lose my job within a week. No, I would, because I can't.
Why? I don't want to know what.
Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? What are we doing here?
Well, you can start.
What are we doing here?
Come outside.
No, not like that. But like, so I had one the other day. I was running a session with some young people, and one of them had clearly had a anxiety-inducing week, and he brought his attitude into the session. We don't do that in our session. So it was very much like, you know, what's going on here?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And gave him a little bit of a grilling, and but I closed it with, we're men in here. It's all boys that I've got in my session at the moment. You're not men, but I'm trying to help you, and you work with your parents and your community to become men. Men apologize. That's just what we do. You know, we don't, linger in our feelings, fester in our feelings, and I was, you done something wrong. You had a bit. You had a bit. Yeah, I know, but you had a bit of a slip up. But we apologize.
Yeah.
Nothing to it. Ain't no shame in it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Move on.
And he came. I'm sorry, sir. No problem. It's life, innit?
Yeah.
But I couldn't be a teacher in school because I think some of the political language that's used, is very politicized now. And I don't like it because I feel like a lot of communities are being scapegoated to help with politics. So when you say something like "we're men in here,"
Yeah.
you can't say
Say that.
you can't say that
You
in
can't.
schools now. But
No.
but the reality is, the majority of the students need to hear that.
Yeah.
You may identify something else, completely appreciate that. Okay, let's say I'm growing you into adults, whatever it is. We apologize. As well.
Yeah.
But it would be. I think I would probably struggle with, like you said, either the leadership pushing for this political push,
Yeah.
or sometimes I think maybe um, parents potentially, because like I said, I think that disconnect of the triangle is missing. The
Yeah.
child, parent, and school
Yeah.
is the triangle, and I think that link is becoming a lot weaker because of time, resources, and 101 different other things.
See, I don't know if I agree that it's becoming weaker. I feel like there's other ways that we can get involved. So becoming a parent governor, you
Okay,
know what I
okay.
mean? Being a member of the independent review panel, which is a statutory setup where if a child's excluded from school or didn't get this primary or secondary school they wanted, they go to the panel and those people make decisions using the law, obviously, on whether or not that child goes back to school or is sent somewhere else or whatever the case is. And I think there's different ways that we can inform change.
Speak a little bit more on how people get involved in those things and how that informs change by being involved in those things. Because people need to know.
Yeah. So being a parent governor, or if you don't even have to be a parent governor, you can be an elected governor. So you might have a skill set. You might work in a bank and you've got really good finance background and you may be able to come into the governing board and help with the finance part, so the finance committees. Or if you are a parent, you can just put yourself up, do your bio, and the parents will vote for you with the need with the expectation that you're going to be supporting the parent voice and the child's voice. And anyone can do that. You don't need a special anything. If you just got, you want to see change and you want to help support the school to be the best they can be for the children, you can just try and be elected in. But to be on the independent review panel, you have to come from an education background. So you have to be a governor, you have to be a teacher, you have to have some input in the education system. But by being a governor, you can select what committees. So there's different ones. So you've got Send and Inclusion, you've got Safeguarding, you've got the Finance Committee, and you can just go in there and make sure when they're having these conversations. Sometimes what's weird is that when you look at schools governing boards, there's not a lot of Black people on these boards. So when they're making decisions, sometimes it's not that they're not thinking of us or not implementing the right things. Sometimes they just don't know. These are the ways to deal with us. So if you're there, you know your community, you know what's right for your people. You can say, oh, have you thought about this? What about this? Let's try this. Or you might say, I'll become the chair of this committee, and you help to inform the change that way. With the IRP, obviously you have to go by the law. You can't inform change. But you can be the voice of reason, because some people may hear a case and think, nah, straight exclusion, not even thinking about it because they've seen maybe a Black child on the screen or Black parents and think, yeah, nah, naughty kids. But actually, you might come with something else, another way of seeing it, and it makes everyone think, oh, actually, I didn't see it from that point of view. So these are the ways we can, and even being part of the PTA, like primary school.
What's PTA?
Oh my gosh, now you're really good.
Because people are gonna see this. I think this is mad interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember what the PTA stands for, but basically it's like a parent committee that's attached to the school. So they're the ones that might do the bake sales, raffling and fundraising and stuff like that. But being in those spaces as well keeps you informed.
It does.
So when you hear that, oh, we're planning to do, I don't know, a trip next year and we're going to go to here, you might say, oh, have you thought about this one? What about going to here? Like, for instance, my kids forever going to Science Museum. What about the other museums? What about taking them up to different places outside of London to see what other museums are saying? So yeah, those are the ways you can inform change. And I think it's also important, and I'm saying all of this knowing that I'm a parent of 3 and it's just stressful to find the time to do all these things. But if we can't keep complaining, and we know the system's against us, but we have to find the time. And one thing that I'm a big advocate for, and I'm actually doing one this week for a parent, that parents' evening is so important.
Yeah.
If you cannot make that, you ask someone to go for you. Do not let your child have no one turn up.
Absolutely.
Because there are teachers out there that are going to be like, okay.
And schools respond very differently to involved parents.
Oh, 100%.
And they respond very differently to when dad is involved. When the dad shows up at the school, it's a completely different
Yeah.
story. Completely different story 9 times out of 10. And it's just something about the male presence that just does that. And
But it's the expectation that there isn't a dad. So when dad does turn up, it's like, oh, there's a dad. No, okay.
yeah.
Because they've got this narrative that we're single mums.
Yeah.
We're doing this alone.
And like one thing you said about sort of finding the time, like I've got a abstract example, but bear with me. Yeah. I remember last winter, my cousin does like sets up stalls for farmers markets.
Okay.
So I helped him with it while he was away.
Yeah.
And what I observed was a lot of farmers markets were sort of predominantly white, what appeared to be middle class people, but not particularly. They weren't. And there's a massive misconception that those people that get involved in the bake sales and these kind of things in schools, middle class, that have a whole leap of time. It's not the case. When I got speaking to the people at the farmers market, there were volunteers that came that helped to set up like the electricity stuff, helped set up stands. I'm saying to them, but bro, why do you, like, immediately I assumed that you must just be, you got money to just sit down and come out your house. No, they don't. But they value the importance of a local farmers market. There's something they value. There's a community element that they hold in high regard. And I think we got to get to a place where we stop saying, oh, all the white people that do this are like this middle class rich. No, that's not the case. We need to invest and find a way to have an input in these things.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to find the time. It's hard. I completely get it. But we can't fill our time with foolishness and not fill our time with something that's substantial for our children.
Oh,
we have to. We have to do it. It's not an option anymore.
Yeah.
Like the time has come for us to do it, not to have organizations take the slack or thing. Like everybody has to do it. Like, yo, I want to sign up.
Yeah.
I want to do the bake sale. I want to do a little cultural day. What a lot of schools have done recently, and I've only noticed this with the last Black History Month, is a what did they call it? And they refer to it on ITV or something like that, GMTV, one of those ones. I heard them refer to it as like cultural week or like diversity week.
Yeah.
It was diversity week, and that includes everyone.
Yeah.
And I thought,
hold on, was that during Black History Month?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Black History Month is almost redundant in a lot of schools because they do diversity week and it focuses massively, like I said, on everybody.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there's nothing wrong with focusing on sort of people's secular beliefs, whatever it is. But we have very different. It's like even the term BAME.
Oh my God, Stein.
We have completely different experiences. You know, completely different experiences. Like an Asian person is not gonna have the same experience as me because he's considered a minority in the UK. Not even remotely.
Yeah.
Completely different experiences, and we've really got to get to a place where we start to stand in our own truth. So yeah.
One thing that you said about finding the time and everything else, I was just thinking the amount of clubs I've been to, bars, and you got that group of people, sometimes I'm part of them, that will just buy out the bar. Yeah. And it's like, if you could just use that money, instead of having expensive urine, use that money to help our society and our community. But it's true, it is expensive.
Yeah.
We could make a change. I mean, we set our partner. We know how to navigate through that. Why can't there be a community one?
We've got money.
Oh, there's money,
and it's sort of going back to the idea of white middle class making a change and stuff like that. It's a complete delusion, like that we don't have money. We have money. The black hair and beauty industry is £1 billion industry in the UK. We have money. Do you see what I'm saying? But we've just got to choose to use it for the right things. Doesn't have to be, your specific examples. Doesn't have to be mine. But we do have to make a concerted effort to put our money and our time and our resource into the right place.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can't really complain. Like, we can't complain. No one's doing it for us.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
We've got to stop waiting for people to say, the BLACHIR report. Yes, it's saying what it's saying. There's opportunities for action.
Yeah.
But there's some things in there that we're going to have to take the reins on.
Facts.
Can't wait for them to implement it.
No.
Because by the time they implemented it, we're maybe not even in that bracket anymore. But we need to make sure that we are doing something. We're fighting the fight, and we're creating these organisations in the Black Pound and strengthening our community.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
Okay, so we're gonna tie it up now. So thank you so much for tuning in to our first little pilot. How do you feel, Callum?
I'm good, and I'm looking forward to the next episode. Make sure you tune in. I didn't say this, and I've never said there's a question I never asked you before we end.
Go on.
Before we close. Why now to do a podcast? Me and you talk, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like I've always been someone where people have always said, "I'm going to do a podcast." I'm one of those people. I get like this. It's never been me. It's never been me, and I don't know why now I've got to a place where I'm like, you know what? I'll do it. Why now?
For me, one, keeping up with the times.
Okay.
And understanding that people will engage with things in different ways. So I know for me, as I'm getting older, I will listen to a podcast sometimes instead of putting on my playlist, just to be informed, be engaged, be inspired. And I think this is a good way to be able to engage with our community in different ways, different age groups as well. And now, because I'm in it, I'm in the thick of it, where before I was a teacher, then I was doing some small community stuff, but now I eat and breathe this. I see the inequalities every single day. And because I've got children, I can't go and tie myself outside the civic suite or other council bodies. So this is my way to get what is needed for our people out there in a different way. So why now for you?
Why now for me? For me, podcast was never a thing for me because, like I said, I've been talking about this stuff a long time, and I gave you the example of when I was younger in school and spoke about these things and got in a lot of trouble for it, which I'll speak about another time in detail.
Definitely are.
But every time I've always just thought there's too much social commentary and it's all been put into one.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it's not really informed.
Mm.
It really frustrated me. And I think lockdown got me in front of a camera.
Yeah.
I never used to have my face on my socials at all. Like people would be like, "This is great, but who are you?"
Yeah.
Oh, it's me, it's Callum.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even know. Like so it's lockdown got me in front of a camera a lot more. Remember Discussion Thursday that I ran that for 7 years. That was a face-to-face thing. I'm a face-to-face individual. But I think, again, it might be an age thing for me where I'm like, I think there's a message that needs to get out there in a more formalized way. Because I'm giving a message, but it's never formalized. I just ad hoc say it, people like it. People are like, oh, that's fantastic. I'm like, yeah, good. And they're like, you need to put this somewhere where people can hear your thoughts in that way or hear these discussions with someone. So when you approached me and we sort of spoke about this, I was like, you know what, who better than to do this than Sabrina? Do you know what I mean? So
Honored, thank you.
That's why really. That's why I think it's a good time in my life to do it. And with that, guys, I need you to go and like, share, and like I don't I never thought I'd say this in my life. Like, share, subscribe, but it helps the engagement. And I think going back to sort of the oversaturated market of podcasts where people just talk infinite and that and rare tear now, foolishness. We need more informed podcasts with people that are, and I'm not perfect by no means, but I try my best. And I think I know that we've already discussed this, but bring people on here that are informed on the topics that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So they can speak about these things, but still have it in a little like jokey way, but a little 1-2 joke, but it's formal enough for people to go back and say, like, even when you look at what you said just now, like, okay, how do I help my school? And you just explained, all right, cool, try and be a parent governor, try to do this, and I didn't do it. People are going to watch this, I didn't even know I can do that.
Yeah.
You know what, let me go and check that out at my school. And that's the aim of it for me.
Definitely.
Make an actual change, not just chatting for chatting's sake.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So with that, like, subscribe, share, and all the rest of it.
Say comment.
And comment, all the rest of it. But the next podcast, log in, we're going to have a guest on that's going to speak about race equality. Very, very interesting guest that I'm looking forward to having on here. We've both known for a very long time. And I can't wait to have them on. I can't wait to just sort of dive deeper into it. I'm sure bounce off each other and differently and grow as the podcast grows.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Same. And on that note, I want to just plug where they can follow us. So, oh my God, I can pause it. What?
Same.
It's small, no, it's not acronyms, is it? No, okay. Right. So on that note, we're going to need you to go over to Instagram and you need to type in Same Place
Worlds Apart.
Worlds Apart. Make sure, and that way you can keep up to date with some of the things we're doing, because as much as we're talking about BLACHIR for these few segments, we're going to keep this going because our community needs to be informed and engaged, and we've got so much to say. We both can talk forever. So we want to make sure that we're continuing this. So it's not a one-trick pony, and we're constantly keeping you up to date and informed about issues that affect us and empowering each other and supporting each other. And yeah, so I'm excited.
100%.
It'll be a good one.
Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of them, YouTube, TikTok.
No, TikTok. Like, I'm not. Are you? What? You're gonna be dancing and?
You know, I think he's gonna do the.
I'm not doing that.
Ah, cool.
No.
Gonna do some robots and. Nah, all of the handles is gonna be Same Place Worlds Apart essentially, and yeah. So thank you for joining, and
See you in the next one.
See you on the next one.
Woo! God damn.